Okay, we are live. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Burrow. Joining me, of course, is partner in crime on the channel, Emily.
Yo.
That's where you say hello.
I said yo.
Oh. I thought you said oh, which is significantly more awkward. We're the most awkward duo on YouTube, I swear.
It's true.
But hello to everybody out there in the comments. Thank you for joining the stream. Just get a quick hello in here. Travis Moore, how you doing? Fogheart. Somebody named Wikipedia, Nippon Culture Quest, and Rolina is here. Thanks everybody for being able to join. And Jake Knowlton is here. Well, very, very nice. Classy.
Did you say Wikipedia is here? You said
it was supposed to be. Yeah, it was supposed to be a joke, and apparently it went off really well.
Yeah.
Went off really well.
Yeah.
So, to give you guys an idea of what the setup here is tonight, well, the title, you know, I think it's a pretty good title. It's such a good title, you want to believe. That was my Donald Trump impression. I'm so good at this. Anyway, so we're going to talk about writing a short story, right? And to do that, we're going to be looking at a really iterated piece that I wrote in 2014. And we're going to go through different points. We're going to talk about things like perspective. We're going to talk about, well, many things. So, and of course, if you guys actually want to see what we're talking about, like in a more concrete way, the link is in the description of the video. Because we're not going to be going through line by line. That would be boring, although that's what Emily wanted to do because she's boring. And yeah, we're going to be talking about stuff like big chunks. So please feel free to open that up on your tabs and follow along with it. So
yeah. So it was written in 2014. I'm a little surprised.
Why?
I thought it was older than that.
Yeah.
Can I just say?
All right, people are allowed to have stinkers.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing yours, your stinker. But
yeah.
Can I ask why you decided to write Gino's story, this ant story?
Well, as part of this writing group with a couple of other writers that I worked with back in the States. And I don't know why I decided to write Gino. I think the submission was due in like a day or like later on that night. So I just wrote it really fast. And for whatever reason, it was about an ant.
Okay. I was just curious for context.
Yeah. This was not written for like submission to anybody, obviously. So.
Except all of the internet.
Yeah. Except all, well, no, but who could have foreseen this? Yeah, just more points on the comments. Any justification for writing about ants. So.
Right.
Yeah. Quit it with the third degree, as it were. So to get started, let's frame this out. You know, what did you think about the piece overall, and then we can sort of dive into why you feel that way.
It was a little confusing.
And
I think a lot of that came down to you kind of like zooming in on the ants and like being in the ant world, but also that not being like totally accurate in some parts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the paragraph where it starts raining and there's kind of like a little bit of a disaster happening. I had to read that paragraph a few times to sort of like absorb what was happening. And I think
right.
The note on the side here of the document is kind of right in saying that the scene needs to like slow down a bit.
I think I mentioned in the beginning that one of the things we were going to talk about is perspective, but I think traditionally, right, fiction is written in past tense. It's becoming more common not to write in present tense because it does give you, like, I've seen people refer to it as like a kind of like the trucking shot perspective, right? Where you're sort of over the shoulder of whatever your main character or your perspective character is.
Yeah.
And I think basically what you said and what the other commenters have said on the story is that it's okay to do that, but you have to keep both feet in your tense perspective. Right. So in the very beginning of the piece, which, by the way, the overall idea of the piece was that Gino, who is an ant, just trying to go find like donut. Very exciting.
Gino, the Italian ant.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even realize that apparently I wrote them like little mafioso ants. But anyway.
Yeah, like when
so yes.
When Franklin talks, he's like, "Yo, Gino."
Yeah, I don't know what happened, where that came from.
I was like, "Oh, okay, they're
But,
from the Bronx." These ants are living in the Bronx right now.
I really don't know. I would love to like pass off and be like, yeah, I was clearly drunk out of my mind. I wrote this, but I don't think I can say that honestly. But so the thing is, right, like they're going to get the donut, and what I was talking about with like the tense perspective is that it is present tense, and so it's you like rate in action type thing. But the problem is that we're Franklin's shoulder, we're in Gino's head, and so we're seeing things through Gino's eyes, through Gino's worldview. But meanwhile, I'm describing something, many things as though he's seen them as a human, right? Your Italian accent is getting praised. But I think like one of the most glaring examples of this is like probably it's halfway down the first page where we're talking about like this powdery substance, which I was going for like confectioner's sugar, I think.
Okay.
But of course, ant would not see sugar, would not see confectioner's sugar in the same way.
Yeah.
So were there other things that you saw things like that?
Well, in the very beginning, where is it? Well, I don't know where it was, but there was a passage where a blade of grass like snaps because of dew, and that sort of like causes like the ants chaos. Like one of them falls over.
Yeah.
That also isn't realistic either. Like plants are kind of designed to withstand that.
Yeah, I've effectively painted the rain in here like, or the rain or dew as like tsunami force kind of threat dance, which again was not terribly well thought out, but I mean, so I think we kind of have two extremes here, right? We're on the one hand, I'm not thinking at all about the ant's perspective, and on the other hand, I am, but I'm sort of overplaying the effect that I think these things will have, right? So basically, in a nutshell, it takes you a story. Like if you're supposed to be with the ant, nothing is like you're an ant. If that makes sense. So, hello, Granny. Welcome to the party.
Hello.
Yeah, I think one of our commenters, it's realistic in a bug's life or ant style, which I think maybe is probably what I was thinking for, but I think my tone is a bit confused. Whether I'm going for realistic or if I am more cartoony, I don't know.
Yeah, you could push it to be more cartoony and be more of like a kid's story.
Right, but there's like I said, there's no consistency.
Yeah.
If I was going for cartoony, I guess probably like one of the devices I use pretty much throughout the piece, right? Like it's very scientific, talking about like them talking via signal.
Yeah.
Right. So if I really wanted to toe that like that cartoony line, they would just be talking to each other. May even be walking on two legs instead of
Right.
But that's the first thing, is like tense and sort of keeping it's just like writing, switching between past tense and present tense. When you're choosing sort of like tense perspective, you have to make sure you have to go for broke as there was.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think the other thing too, if we're talking about I'm sorry, completely lost my train of thought. I'm awesome. I'm so awesome. But yeah, I think that's the thing too, is where it points out like too scientificness, right? It just doesn't keep you in the story at all. It kicks you out. Nothing. There's so much where it's not really serving the narrative. You're serving what's going on. It's just sort of vomit.
Yeah.
Which is
pretty much. I'm not saying it's vomit, but.
But you're not saying.
No. Granny is asking, is sticking to a style an obligation?
I think so. I think so. I think you get away with sort of switching back and forth with a longer piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think in like a short story, you want to sort of have pretty well defined, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna read what they're saying in the chat.
Yeah.
Foghart said it's hard to get involved if the style swings around a lot. And Nippon Culture Quest said the whole omnipotent thing when writing from one character's perspective thing, but it's so easy to fall into.
Right. Well, I think that's one of the benefits about writing in present tense, is that writing in present tense, I think it kind of takes away some of that omnipotence.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like there's a certain like authority that comes with writing the past tense. Like you know everything that's already happened, and there's sort of more you're discovering things as your character's discovering when writing in present tense. Or I mean, obviously it's not the case. That's how it should feel.
Right.
But yeah.
So
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, I want to talk about some of the imagery, I think, and this is something that we have a video up on the channel about, but there are times in this, I think, where it's really just over the top, to the point of where almost it's ridiculous. It's super cartoony to read. Not cartoony, like pulpy.
Mm-hmm.
In particular, here, I shall read you all a passage. As the sun crests in the morning to fill the hill with the tangerine glow of a new day. Right. I don't need to read the rest of the sentence. But it's sort of like it's too much, right?
A little.
It's just too much.
I like
and
that you're kind of trying to set the scene, like describe the setting. Because even though we start off super zoomed in, like an ant is treading nimbly over a verdant spring of Kentucky bluegrass, it's good to kind of like set the more like a relatable perspective at the same time, I think, because it's not ants reading this.
Right. I think there are parts, like you said, like right, where it does come across better. Like I think there are definitely parts where you can very clearly see things, right? Like you have a very clear picture of what's going on.
Right.
Oh, it's so ridiculous at other times. There's like, yeah. LCL. I think, well, if maybe you want to take this one, having your animation background.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, the animation and writing are a lot different in that way. And like Ronnie was saying, it adds to the experience. If in a show like FLCL is kind of like wacky, then it is adding to the experience, like you said. And I think in writing a short piece, unless it's done very purposefully, then I think it will just knock you out of the reading experience. I think because like,
mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No, please.
I was just gonna say that since animation is a visual experience, then you're kind of fed the story and information more directly. If you're reading something, you're relying on your own mind to sort of imagine what's happening. So if the writing is not fluid enough, then it's just not going to process the way that it's intended.
Right. I think with animation, but also television in general, like you go into it kind of expect that there's going to be inconsistency in tone or style, right? But so many different people will like direct an episode or something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas, like you said, like people really, really expect consistency in voice, and voice changes so much in style too, right? So I just don't know that it would play very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're never gonna find out with Gino. Gino's dead. He's dead.
Oh my god.
But
so I don't remember. Did you explain already that it is a donut that the ants are heading towards?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
But also, there's a section in the very first paragraph of the piece. He didn't die in the sorry spoilers. I'm just saying, never writing about him again. He's dead to finger / my pen / pencil. But in the very first paragraph, right, there's this really clumsy sort of description, which I will now read. To a mountain of brown and white sugar popped irregularly with cyan and green pieces that are thought to be choice morsels among Gino and his friends. So the idea being here is that I guess in the head I saw like one of those brown donuts that has like white frosting on the top and it's sprinkled.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have to imagine what I'm thinking, I think I was confused whether I could come out and call it a donut or if an ant would know what a donut was, right? This is another example of my being in the head of the ant and being inside of the head of the ant.
Mm-hmm.
So over to you. What did you think when you read that part of the story?
Well, I had no idea what you were getting at with that description.
Sure.
I didn't know what the food was supposed to be, and I think that more than anything kind of took me out of the story because it seemed like you're trying to make ants more sentient and, you know, like how they have names, they have friendships, and they talk to each other and stuff, but they don't have, like, it just seemed like it would be a lot cooler if they had words for these things. Like, maybe they don't know the word donut, but, you know, like they're speaking to each other in words, like in English that is presented in the story, but like they don't have a more specific description for the food, and like they also know like the word sugar. Like you're saying later on, like humans eat sugar, they slather sugar all over their food, and so
right, it's super. it's super consistent. And the other thing exactly right is that, for example, I don't know, I can't think of an example, but like surely like, I don't know, say for example, a Japanese person back in the day, like 19th century, we'll say, when they saw something from America or something that they'd never seen before, surely they didn't talk about it in like what is effectively like a 2 sentence long description, right? They would adopt a name for it.
Yeah.
Whether a long word or a new word or whatever. So it's a good point. But I think Flockhart points out that it doesn't make sense for them to know necessarily it's called a donut. But so, I mean, that being said, if we can make in the language that they have adopted a new word for donut, right? Like their own word for donut. How do you then go about assigning the meaning to that word without really doing what I did in a very far way?
Maybe I don't know. I always liked stories that had characters that kind of had made up their own jargon. I'm trying to think of an example. If you guys have read or seen The Maze Runner, they have like their own like kid jargon. I don't know, maybe if it was just more specifically descriptive. Like if you had said that it was like ring shaped or something, then I would have been like, oh, it's a donut.
Right, and so a mountain of brown and white sugar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't really tell you anything. True.
And like ants are very food driven, so it would make sense that they have a lot of knowledge or a lot of jargon regarding their food.
Yeah, no, that's too. And that, again, I do in fact know what you mean. I think overall the whole piece is just a failure to understand my subject.
Well, that's a sweeping statement.
But is that not accurate? Have you read it a couple of times? Like, I think it's pretty spot on.
I mean, it's just inconsistent, like you said.
Nice.
It's just inconsistent, like you said. Like, it's going between trying to like get into like the perspective of a real ant and then also going to these kind of more cartoony characteristics of the individual ants. So you should pick one.
Well, again, Gino's dead, so I have to worry about it. Now, Granny points out right about it's a hard thing to solve when we're using this. Should we choose not to give the ants a new thing, right? But I don't think you can go around making up too many words at the same time because you rely so much on people's familiarity with concepts and everything else like that. You end up with a really, really messy piece, I think, if you effectively make up what's just a lot of new shit.
Yeah.
Right. Like, yeah.
And it's not going to come across in it's not going to come across in a short piece either.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. This is the thing, right? And this is why we're focusing particularly. Well, we are focusing particularly on short story here. And so like, a lot of the things that you can get away with be a little bit of like the style we talked about, or lexicon. Like you just don't have the space to really get into it unless you want to kill your pacing. Yeah. So if ever I do write a good book and it ends up published in like I find modicum of success, if anybody finds this, I'll be ruined. Shame. Not at all. Shame. They'll make me look.
No, because they'll be like, look how much he improved.
All right. Well, you have a much more positive outlook on this than I do, clearly. What do I wanna talk about? Yo, Gino. Okay. So I guess this is a really big thing. How did you feel about character description or just sort of action in general? Did you feel like there was a lot of showing, or did you feel like it was really telling?
There was a little more telling, I think.
Mm.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm like reading at the same time.
Yeah, no.
Did you like try to shoehorn in an aunt's romance with the looking at Marnie's backside line?
I think that's what I'm going for. Right? I think
I was
so.
like, oh no.
Yeah. I think originally there was like some like terrible plan to like make it like damsel in distress thing that was yeah times. Yeah, there was definitely like a plan to go that way. God. This is all your fault.
And like another thing that goes with the, I mean, I guess again, like because it's a short story that I understand, but they all have like human names. So
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Like, why
Yeah,
would they have human names but not describe their food? I don't know. It's just like not clicking for me. Like why they're named like Frank and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, there's this. Yeah, and this is what Mel's pointed out, is that like it doesn't. You personified the ants, and this is some, you know, and then you mentioned giving them names, but yet I'm being like, well, you can't call a donut though.
Yeah.
There's just, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, for the record, I like to think Pokemon fanfic a lot better. It's a lot better. So watch it, snipers in the comments. That's sad that a Pokemon fanfiction is better than this, but
why?
I mean, you know, I will say though that I think there is like, for anybody who has read the Pokemon fanfic, this is not plugging it by telling you to go read it. But if you haven't, there is like a world of difference, I think, between that and this, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
But the thing we were talking about, right? Like this idea of showing versus telling, it's really can be difficult, or not difficult. What's a difficult right word, I guess, to not fall into the trap of just sort of describing every action in what is like a really Emily, tell me what I'm trying to say.
I don't know.
All right, so basically, right, let's make an example. That's a good way to do it. So on the second page here, right, there is this sentence: as he sees the image fracture into 100-piece reflection in Franklin's eye. So now what I'm doing here is telling you Gino's perspective. Right? I'm telling you what's going on inside Gino's head. And I do this sort of all throughout the piece. Instead of like showing you body language, for example. There's another really good example of this where basically Gino has decided, oh, he's going to save Martin, he's going to save Franklin, his hitman friend, and basically get everybody to go around like the Dew Valley by going up on a twig. And what ends up happening is that he gets an order from the group, like this chemical signal thing again, which whatever, that he shouldn't be doing that. He needs to return to the group. And basically, I tell you what's in his head. I say, oh, he's very disappointed that he can't follow through on his mission, that he's being overridden by the group thing. Instead of I'd have like shown you some kind of big language where you get the idea that he's disappointed without me having to tell you, right? So that's like that. That's what we're really talking about here. We're about showing versus saying. Yeah, you should always do the former. So.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you didn't edit this at all, right? Like you just.
I think I went through and passed just for the sake of making it clean. But I didn't go back through and rewrite anything other than that. No.
Okay.
Clearly. Clearly.
Yeah. I don't mind the part where you're describing the image fracturing in the ant's eyes or whatever, but just it could have been worded more clearly. And like the phrase like, as this and this happened, Gino did this and this, like comes up a lot.
Yeah.
I'm kind of nitpicking,
for
but
sure.
Like overusing that is really jarring. Just because it kind of implies that you're like slowing down time, that like as this, like especially during the whole like chaos is happening. I think you used it once, so it was kind of like as the grass was falling, so-and-so fell into so-and-so, and it's kind of like take off the as this was happening and just have it happening, especially since you're writing in like the present tense. You can do that, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It definitely it kills any kind of pacing whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I already feel really bad.
What's do I feel bad?
I feel really bad. We're only like half an hour in. I just feel like I'm like coming for you. I'm like,
no,
you did this.
No. Like, I feel like I can confidently say that there's a big. Well, first of all, there's a big difference between the writer I was 2 years ago. Also, I know how much work went into this piece, so by all means, tear it up. And I don't like it either. I don't want to give the impression that I'm like, oh, this is my baby. Like, stop ruining Gino. Stop ruining G for me. You know. But actually, you talked about as the blah blah happened, right? As whatever occurred, as like a repeated phrase. And it's problematic in this because, like you said, it has that sort of like implication that time is slowing, right? Because you're trying to introduce two simultaneous actions.
Yeah.
But I think trying to find other particular examples, there is a lot of that same. Here example, right? Unfettered, comma, line begins to move in immediately.
Yeah.
Even so, comma, Gino, seeing ahead. There's a lot of like sort of split sentences.
Yeah.
This is something I've worked on. I've had to work on a lot because when I talk, I don't know if you notice, I talk in really long sentences and broken sentences like that. Like lots of comma, lots of semicolons and things like that.
Right.
And if we're talking about pacing, right, you can't do that all the time. There has to be sort of like long sentences and short sentences, and it's okay to use things like commas and semicolons and things like that. But yeah, I think that's part of why the pacing feels really off in this, is that it's just so slowly written. It's so slowly written. Well, weird because some of the criticism was that it needs to slow down, and I already feel like it's so slow.
Yeah. I think that is getting confused because of the sentence structure. Like the sentences sometimes feel like they're moving in a backwards sort of way.
Right. Yeah.
Like the first sentence of that part, the smell of fear wafts in the air as a strand of grass snaps under the weight of the morning dew. Like those seem reversed to me, those two ideas. So like it's kind of confusing to present the idea of the smell of fear happening before we describe the action of the
it's strange.
This grass breaking.
I think that can be okay on occasion.
Yeah.
But yeah, when in like we've said, there's kind of like a back-to-back problem, which makes it like, okay, you don't get a clear idea of what the order is at all.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see what's happening. I wish we could keep comments, by the way, so that people, when they watch back, and see what we're trying to react to.
Yeah.
Annoying YouTube. Listen to Nico Simon already. But sorry, I'm trying to look at my notes here.
Well, Foghart is saying shorter sentences maybe in the chaos, and I kind of agree with that in certain scenarios.
Yeah, I think so.
You want to have like a very punchy description.
Yeah, there's not much variation at all between the different scenes. Like you're saying, like between sort of when they're just walking along, and then suddenly when things are going to hell, like there's no variation at all. So it all just sort of comes across as bland, I think.
And it's a little confusing, I would say.
Yeah, I think so too. What about, okay, so we've already pointed out that they speak like little tiny mafiosos.
Yeah.
But that said, did you feel sort of character development through the conversation? Did you gain any sort of understanding of their relationship?
Yeah, and I would say
and Frankie.
Yo, Frankie.
Yo, Frankie.
I would say that's the strong point of the story, is that there does seem to be distinct personalities between the ants. And even though it's a short piece, you can get the idea of their relationships and how they function.
I think it's really like the only part of the story that I thought went kind of semi-well.
Yeah.
Like you said, I feel like looking back on, I can tell that there is a difference between the character, but I also feel like it's natural as far as the speech goes. Like,
right.
I think like all this are things that ways people would actually talk to each other, right? And of course they're not people, they're ants, but I think it comes across things that people would actually say to each other, characters would actually say to each other, their friends, and their relationship is one of them, like picking on each other all the time.
Yeah.
So I think it reads pretty well.
Yeah, I agree.
With a really strange regional dialect of speech. You don't know, this could be set in Central Park.
Yeah.
Anyhow, yeah. But that being said, what do you think are the important parts there in the conversation that help to set the characters apart? Is it tone? Is it word choice? Is it order of words? What do you think?
I don't know. I like this part where they're kind of making fun of each other. Like, you're not a carpenter ant with a face like that, and Gino says, "You sort of look like a potato bug." I don't know. I really like that because burn.
Dick burn.
that kind of like was more immersive into their bug life, you know, and that kind of ties into the point I was trying to make about the jargon and stuff, was that helped your world building as well as the characters.
Sorry, I'm ignoring you. I want to earmark what Granny is saying here because it's something we should go back to.
Okay.
I think, what was I saying? I wasn't saying anything. You were the one doing the speaking. Yeah, I think so too, right? And I think, I don't know, like, strangely enough, writing dialogue is a thing that I really hate writing dialogue, actually. Like, hate it.
I am so bad with dialogue. Yeah, so I don't feel that qualified to... What?
How does that play out for you when you have to write so much of it for your comic?
Bad. I have to revise it like 7 times.
How do you do it? Do you do conversations in your head, or are you more of like a write and see how it comes out on the page, or you talk aloud between the characters?
Yeah, I do all those things at each stage. So like on the initial stage, I just sort of go blah and get like the action across that I want. And this is me typing, by the way. Like this. But then I go through and kind of look at it from each character and sort of like look at the nuance and make sure that each character is sounding like themselves. And if they aren't, then I just delete the line entirely and rewrite it. And then like on the next pass, I will like sort of read it out loud to myself. And a good rule of thumb for that, I learned this from Lauren Innes on Paper Wings. She's the author of a comic, The Dreamer, that's what it's called. And she said that you should read your dialogue out loud. And if a line of dialogue can be said exactly the same way, if you switch the characters, then it's not very good.
That's a good point. That's interesting.
And
I think,
yeah, no, go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh.
I think there's that, right? If it can be the same way, that's one thing. But also I think it's so important to say out loud at all. Just because there's one thing, right? Like, because you know how your character should sound, but you have to actually hear that. But also a matter of like I know that when I just write, I can't really tell by reading in my head if something rings true or not. Like, if that sounds like how people would say something.
Yeah.
So saying it aloud, I know it can sound like ridiculous, but there are times when I'm literally sitting here and I'm doing like, okay, let's say a big burly character, a little lady character, who's like, hey, he's like, hey, and then if it doesn't sound natural, like, of course that's not the actual conversation. But what I'm trying to say is that something silly as that can really lead to much more natural conversation for you, I think.
Yeah. And when you're writing a short thing that you just do as a challenge, like a one-day thing, it can be really tough because you just created these characters. Like in my comic, Kingdom Come, like I came up with the characters like 10 years ago. So I really, really know them. And so I can tell like early if the action and the dialogue is not appropriate for them. But for say, like when I started my manuscript for NaNoWriMo last year, like the early dialogue was so stiff and it was like all cliches, and because I didn't know my characters and I didn't know what they would say for the action that was happening in the story.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I've talked to before, but that's why I really like reading vignettes for my characters, because well, it helps get to know them, but it actually gets me to care about them a lot more.
Yeah.
And however you do it, like of course you're talking about Kingdom Come characters, like these are people who've been bouncing around your head for a decade, so like of course there's that connection, but yeah, there are of course ways to do that don't take a decade of hearing voices effectively.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So the thing I want to talk about that Grani mentioned here is really really interesting. Okay, so he said, in the baccalaureate English writing session, I tried making one guy have an accent. It was counted as errors. Good rule of thumb, and we're sort of going away from just talking about my piece here, but if you can't write dialect or accent really, really, really well, don't try.
Yeah.
It just, no, yeah, because what you'll do is you'll offend people who actually know what you're trying to go for, and they'll be like, what the hell, this doesn't sound like how we talk at all, right? We'll bring those people to the story, but also it just looks terrible and really harms the readability of your piece.
Yeah, it's annoying to read.
Yeah,
no
it's
offense.
super annoying. offense. But yeah, I mean there are ways to do it, right? Like, I don't want to toot my horn here, and I didn't even mean to do this, but apparently you can make it sound like Italian stereotypes.
Yeah.
Without writing the particular inflection to the spelling of the words and stuff like that. Though, oh boy, that's the main point, I guess.
You
this
use
is
a
such
lot
a healthy
of
exercise.
There's a lot to learn.
Yeah, that's good.
You used quite a lot of alliteration in this story.
Yes. Which at times, actually, I really liked it, but it's heavy. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that to you.
A lot, I mean like a couple instances, but where was the one?
There's one right where you are right now, if that helps.
The distinctly of distaste.
Yeah, I actually like one though, not gonna lie.
Okay.
Judge me must. Disagree by all means.
Well, yeah, it kind of, the words are a little too similar, so it's the kind of thing that would make the reader almost like trip up if they're just like reading quickly through it. That's my opinion.
While you are entitled, friend. No, but while I like alliteration, I think this is actually another case where I could have shown you how Gino was sort of perceiving Franklin versus just being like, well, Franklin smells distinctly of distaste. It just, yeah.
Yeah. Normally I wouldn't nitpick that type of thing on like an unedited piece, but I'm just saying for the sake of the show.
Yeah, I think I gave you zero information of how developed this was.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much for the chorus. Sorry.
The email, like the message where you shared it with me just says, "Oh ho ho, be excited for this shit."
Yeah. I probably could have given you more information.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah. We're not here to talk about character flaws, okay? We're talking about the piece.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Okay, so I'm trying to find an example, but a huge pet peeve of mine, reading wise, is kind of, now I can't find an example, but I know there was one. Anyway, kind of like too much description for the dialogue. God, why can I? Okay, here's one. The last part. Like I said, G, Franklin spits spitefully at his disheartened friend, and without a word, their cubby effort continues. Da da da. So spits spitefully is another alliteration that is, the two words are too similar to each other. And just in general, if you have, like, this is my preference and my pet peeve. Like, obviously I didn't go to school for English, so I mean, other people may have different opinions on this, but if you use a word that is like a descriptive verb like spits, I feel like the spitefully is way extra, and I'm usually careful with like the adjectives that end in ly, and if you're using them too often, it's very heavy. So if Franklin is already spitting this line of dialogue, the spitefully is not needed, and it's just like laying it on really thick with like the alliteration and his line of dialogue above that too. Franklin states coolly. If he's stating it, it's already kind of implied that he's saying it in like a cool way.
Right.
And again, this is not something I would normally nitpick on like an unedited piece, but just for the sake of discussing this for the video.
Yeah, I think I agree with you 100%. I think using adverbs sort of, it's a lot of conversation text.
Yeah.
Right? You don't always need to say he said, he laughed, he did whatever, right? Like I said, you should be able to kind of get the idea for yourself depending on the dialogue is written.
Yeah.
And like as a matter of context, you should automatically understand why Flynn is spitting, how Flynn is spitting, and why I completely agree spitefully is overkill. And in general, yeah, I agree 100%. Unless you really want to like drive something home, you should probably avoid adverbs like that. Too much.
On like in every paragraph, it's just, yeah, it gets annoying.
Yeah, and it's super immature.
No offense.
None taken. No, I realize that I have like a natural setting sounding sarcastic, but this is actually like really a therapeutic process for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. But also to anyone watching who might disagree, no offense intended.
You hate mail.
Yeah, so
is there anything else you feel like we didn't hit?
No, actually, I was just gonna say I think that was everything I kind of made a mental note about. How about you?
Yeah, that was great. No, I think we really pointed out the stuff that I wanted to talk about. The any bad and the good. But no, I think I really point out to you guys out there who are maybe starting out, like this is a really good exercise to get into. Not necessarily going online to potentially share it with every human being on the planet, but basically putting a story in a drawer for a really long time and then going back and looking at it like like it's not your work almost. So you can be really critical of it. It's really, really healthy and really, really good for you to develop it. So.
And you can see how much you improved.
Yeah. And it's really, really important to have people who will tell you your work is shit. So, I'm serious.
Did you see
Do not undo. Sorry, what?
I reblogged something on Tumblr the other day that was a screen cap of someone posting their terrible MS Paint drawing of a fox, and they're like, "This is my fursona," and someone commented, "Are you open to constructive criticism?" And they said yes, and then the other person said, "It fucking sucks."
I'm seeing it now. That's not constructive criticism. I love that. I love that. No, I mean, it's true. It's definitely not constructive, but I think you need to gotta have a thick skin if you want to make things, eh?
It's so true.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think we said before, it's always good to kind of point out the good at the same time that you're pointing out something bad. You know, soften the blow.
Yeah, no. Like, yeah, but you don't even necessarily need to do that, I think. Like, if something is just like abjectly bad, like people need to know when things are bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a matter of knowing what not to do. A praise sandwich.
Yeah, exactly.
Far too amused by a praise sandwich. Yeah.
But also make sure that your kind of like circle of friends that you can send your work to are also people who will be straight with you and kind of tell you what you need to work on. Like, don't just send it to your mom or your grandma, because they're going to be like, "You're amazing. Oh my gosh, you're a genius.
You're so talented."
And also like have the decency to do like one pass through edit. Like you were saying, Charlie, that you just kind of like made it look clean. And generally there's like no typos except one Frankling.
Yeah, I saw that. I was reading through, but I thought it was disingenuous to edit it before we.
A couple of years ago, I asked Ellen to send me her NaNoWriMo. If you guys remember, Ellen was on our NaNoWriMo show back in November, and she didn't do an editing pass through, and her spelling is horrible, and there was like commas like in all the wrong places, and just I wrote back to her. I was like, I can't read this.
It makes you so mad, right? Like so infuriating.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like it almost feels like you're not respecting my time. Like if I read something like that for you.
Yeah.
Like, God damn. Yeah.
To be fair, I was the one who kept asking her, like, send me your NaNoWriMo, I want to read it. But yeah, just do a brief editing pass. You know, make the job a little bit easier for your beta reader.
Yes. Good tips, people. This is why we are the biggest creative channel on the internet.
Yeah, it's all for free too. Like, what the heck?
Yeah. Emily charges exorbitant amounts for that kind of thing.
It's true.
She's a gold chair. Yeah. But should we open up the floor?
Yeah, for sure.
Commenters here before we. Yeah, so guys, if you have any questions or things that, if you've seen a story that you feel like we should talk about, now is the time to say so. And so that we don't have dead air, Emily is going to sing a rendition of her favorite song in the meantime.
No, I'm not.
You're not a player. Clearly. Oh, jeez. Give you time to shut up. But yeah, yeah, guys. That being the case, it doesn't seem like we do have anyone else. There's anything else that people want us to put on. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Yeah. Thank
we
you,
need
Charlie,
to do a live stream.
Thank you for providing the material for this show.
Well, if ever you want more shit to read, I have plenty. Guaranteed.
Great.
Maybe someday we could read my Star Wars fan fiction from when I was 15.
Oh, actually,
That'd be
yes.
wonderful.
That would be awesome.
Oh, actually, yes.
We should do a dramatic reading of it.
I would love that so much.
Like, get into character and stuff.
I really would love that. If we invite all our friends on something, we can give everybody a character. We'd be really happy. But do a 10-minute challenge. Yeah, actually, that's what I would really like to do soon. But every time I tell Emily I want to make a video together, she's really mean and says no. So
What?
Yeah, I made all of that. But yeah, I'm sure we'll get together something like that soon. Now that we're back in video making mode. I'm back in video making mode. This one never quit, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
That'd be good.
Yeah. Chip chip. Who says chip chip? I don't know if that's not a thing. Anyway.
No, what is that?
Before I further make an ass of myself, thanks guys for coming. Before we go, I do want to point out that Emily is launching her webcomic sometime soonish.
In August, near the end of August. That is the projected launch date right now.
Yeah, so keep an eye. In the meantime, if you want to see her art, you should check out all of her information down in the description. You can also check out her print store.
Yeah, thanks.
It's not weird when I plug it, so. Yeah.
Ew, stop. There's a Facebook page for Kingdom Come as well, so you can like the page and you will get updates, stuff. Anything you want to promote? I feel like I'm kind of taking the spotlight right now.
No, because I'm ever treading water on things that I need to not be.
Yeah, well, you said you were gonna send me your manuscript like, what was it, 3 months ago?
I know. I'm the worst.
Jeez.
I'm working. Yeah. I'm the worst procrastinator ever. If you haven't noticed in the year that we've been doing this together now.
I would say I'm way worse, but anyway.
It's proven to be true. But anyway. Yes. So for the last time, I think, we really thank you. Thank you for coming. Please be sure to share the stream if you guys found that you think it'll be helpful for the creatives in your lives. Yeah. And be sure to check out all of our other videos. For Emily's awesome stuff. Follow us on Twitter, blah blah. Emily, what you got?
Subscribe if you haven't done so already, so you never miss an update.
Ever.
Okay,
guys, have a good day/afternoon.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.